Hey everybody, welcome to That Expert Show, where you help run the show. I'm Anna Canzano. Thank you so much for joining me today. We've got a great episode lined up. We are talking all about entrepreneurs. We have expert advice for you if you are an entrepreneur yourself, or maybe you just have that seed of an idea in the back of your head for something that you want to try and launch on your own. Our expert today has worked with entities all across the board, from startup to launch to establish businesses and help them grow their businesses. If you're watching live right now, I would love to know. Tell me what business you own or what project are you working on. I would love to share that and give you a shout out. You know, it can be kind of exciting, but also a little lonely and scary breaking out on your own, especially if you've only worked in a team setting for a company before. Our expert today is an entrepreneur coach. She founded Hatch Tribe as a way to cultivate and connect women entrepreneurs. And she joins us live right now from South Carolina. Thank you, Hilary Johnson, for joining That Expert Show.
Thanks so much for having me today.
I wanted to start off with you to get advice for you for that person that I mentioned who's just, thinking about this idea of launching a business, has, the idea that they're dreaming on at night. What advice do you have somebody who's not even yet at that stage where they are writing down a business plan, but they just have that idea?
Yeah, I think that is such an exciting part of the journey. And it's definitely a time where you really want to foster those ideas and let the creativity come. For me, that was sitting down with just a blank notebook. And I wrote down for a couple of years ideas that I had. And I just kept that notebook with me so that I could let those ideas come out, have a place to let them live. And over time, there will be some of those ideas that will feel a little bit more exciting and a little bit more call to you. And those may be the ones that you choose to pursue.
Interesting. And then once you decide, like once you hone in on the idea that you're going to pursue, what are the best steps? I would assume that research is a big part of this to figure out who else is in the field that you want to get into and what they're doing right and even what they're doing wrong.
Oh, absolutely. And I think research is definitely an important part of getting started. It's an important part of continuing to be a business owner, no matter where you are in your journey. And I think even before you select the idea, you might narrow down 2 or 3 things you're really interested in. And that's a good place to start. So you want to research other businesses that are doing a similar thing. And they could be businesses that are in your own area, in your own city, but they could also be businesses that are outside of. So for example, when I created my very first business, I wanted to produce large festivals and events. And so I started looking all across the country to see what other types of events were being produced that were interesting to me, what the concept was, and then I went to them. So an important part of research for me was actually going out and attending some of these live festivals and getting a real sense for how they were being run. And so no matter what idea you're pursuing, you really can blend the gap between just doing research online, which is wonderful, but then also stepping outside of that, going out into the world and really experiencing the type of business that you would like to run. And doing interviews is really good too. So connecting with people that may be in the field of the business that you'd like to create.
And how would you do that? I mean, it's not easy sometimes. Like I said, if you've only come from a corporate setting or a team environment with a company and you're breaking out on your own, it can probably be challenging to connect on a more meaningful level with other people who are in the field that you want to go into.
Sometimes yes, but I will say on the whole, my experience has been that people are generally interested in sharing their own story. And I think if you are open and honest about your intentions and by saying, I'm really interested in starting a business of my own, I'm looking to create something in this field, and I would be interested in just getting your feedback. I think LinkedIn is a wonderful place to make those connections because you can quickly connect with people who are in that field, but also reaching out to those businesses. And, you would be surprised how many people are really willing to share their own story, their own tips, and their own advice, even if you're going to be in a similar field. So I think the key here is get out there and make the ask. Most people will be willing to share with you. And if they're not, that's okay. You'll find more who are.
What about the financial aspect of things? Like, what advice do you give to your clients about the monetary commitment that they should be making to this venture? I mean, you hear the horror stories of people who have, taken out mortgages on their home, use them to create business loans, and then they're underwater, and then the business doesn't even succeed. So, what advice do you have when it comes to the financial commitment?
This is a great question, and one that really deserves not only the research but the true planning for it. And it is something that you really want to be prepared for. So I think number one is you must develop a budget. And what that means is you want to sit down and understand not only what it's going to cost to start your business, because there will be some one-time upfront startup cost, but also what's it going to cost to run it? If you really think about the first year or the second year, what will it take you to really run that business, and making sure that you have ample funding to do that? Now, part two of that is I really suggest for my clients, if they're pre-launch, that they are building a bank of funding right now. It means stop spending money like crazy, start putting your money in savings. And really what you're trying to build is like this nest egg of investment that you are getting ready to put into your own business. And the reason that's important is because we make better decisions in business when we have a runway. And by that, I mean, it's the financial runway to let you get your business off the ground. And you can take some risk in the beginning if you have that. If you don't, and you're starting from a position of having no money and already digging into debt, we tend to make decisions from a place of scarcity, which means we will not always invest in things that really need to be invested in. And the example I would give is usually we don't invest in marketing when we desperately need to. We don't invest in sales, or we don't invest in people. And those are three things that really have the ability to transform a business. And when invested in the right way, and especially early in your business, you can grow it at a much faster clip, but you've got to have some money to be able to do that, of course.
And when it comes to marketing, are there healthy ratios? Is there a recipe or a proper percentage amount when you're budgeting that you should allot for marketing, or is that just vary by business and industry?
Yeah, I wish I could say there was one like easy answer. There is not, unfortunately, but this is the way I ask you to think about it. One is you want to start by thinking about who your ideal customer is. So if you envision that business, who do you really want to be serving? And you've got to get very clear about who he or she is, so that you can then think about where he or she is spending her time. And when you're clear about that, then you can start identifying marketing vehicles that will be really productive for you to use. Now, of course, everybody right now uses social media. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, but that doesn't mean that those are the only two tools that we should be relying upon. And if we're very clear about where our target audience is spending their time, we can identify some other platforms that can be really, really productive. So it might be a local newspaper, or it could be working with a radio show, or it could be using YouTube. I mean, there's so many different options and ways to really reach our audience, but we just want to be clear about who exactly we're trying to serve and not mirroring that just off of what someone else is doing.
It's so interesting because I come from a journalism background, and I remember those research reports where, news stations would spend a lot of money hiring consultants to figure out who your target viewer was. And she had a name. Yeah. We knew how many children she had on average. We knew how much college education she had received. Relatively speaking, the income level at which her family runs their household. I mean, it was detailed. She had a name. Yeah. We were like, okay, who are we targeting with this story? And her name is X, so that knowing your audience, that is so wise, because it will probably help you avoid wasting a lot of marketing dollars, throwing spaghetti on a wall to an audience that isn't ready to receive your message.
That is exactly right. And I think when it comes to the budget side of the coin, you want to have an investment in it, but you also want to see a return on your investment. And there are tools where you can see a return. And if we looked at social media and we just looked at ads, you can see what results you're getting from those, how many impressions, how many clicks came to your website. You get some real analytics that at one point we couldn't get. I mean, if we talked about just newspapers, for example, we don't really know how many people actually read our article if they picked up the print version. But if we look at the digital version, we can tell you how many people actually read it.
That's true.
So there are different ways to use it, but I think the key is you want to measure it. So if you're going to invest in something, be sure to look at the results after the fact and get a sense for, did it work for you or not? And that's going to tell you how to reinvest your money as you move forward.
Speaking of newspapers, this is our first episode that involves a partnership with the Oregonian newspapers. So I just want to say hi to everybody that is watching via Facebook from the Oregonians page, Sharon and Mike and Richard and Susan. I want to say hello and thanks for tuning in. Susan does have a question that just posted. She says, how would she turn a successful Facebook group about photography and travel in Oregon into a money-making thing? So she's apparently has a Facebook group that's going and active, and she wants to make that profitable for herself.
Okay, this is a wonderful question. So if you already have an audience, you have people that are interested in hearing what you have to say, and you're already providing something of value. So to me, the key is you want to go to that audience and ask them what they would like to see from you. The biggest mistake that business owners make is just jumping to the conclusion and thinking must be what they want next, and then trying to create a solution for them and sell it to them without really asking for feedback. So what I would encourage you to do is just step back from it a little bit. Think about questions you'd like to ask your audience that are leading towards a way of monetizing the group. And then start asking those questions in your Facebook group. Would you rather see a course or would you rather see a membership group? I'm thinking about creating this course. Would you be interested in this? So we want to start really asking pointed questions and getting really good feedback from the audience that we have. But the fact that you already have an audience is amazing because it will give you that ability to ask real questions to real people. And chances are they will tell you what they're looking for, and then you can go create that for them.
That's fascinating. So that you can use that Facebook group in which, your fans are already active as a pretty targeted focus group to expand beyond that.
Absolutely. And we did this in our own business. Hatch Tribe initially had a Facebook group, and that was where we were building our community. And our community now has a paid membership group, and the audience is different. I mean, to be very clear, we went from having thousands of members in the Facebook group to having hundreds in the paid group, but the quality of the interaction is significantly different. And when it's monetized, the people who show up and pay for that are there for really good reason. They're invested in their growth. They're invested in their business. And so that can be a really wonderful resource.
Is the Facebook group that important now? I'm hearing that it is, and I've created one because I'm told that I need to be doing that. And that's kind of the next wave is these groups, because it's, Facebook is pushing it, and it's what helps you engage with your people on a more direct basis. But is that really something that everybody should be considering?
Short answer, no. I think that it is a wonderful tool for some businesses. It is not the right tool for all businesses. So again, what I would pull back to is, who is the customer or client that I'm really trying to reach? And if community is a huge part of that, a Facebook group or something similar may be a good tool for you. And when I say if community is important, it's around helping other people connect with one another and giving you the ability to connect with them as well, where you're fostering conversation, you're fostering dialogue. But these groups do require a significant amount of work because you've got to be there and present and engaging and really providing value every single day and every single week. And so the key is, if you're going to invest your time and energy in that, make sure that you're really building a strategy so that you can show up and engage with the people that are there and offer them things that are of value.
So let's say that you have launched the business and you've had that initial wave where maybe you've leaned on family and friends like I have to, spread the word about what you're doing. And so you have that initial growth, and then you feel things start to plateau because, everybody's interested in what's new, but you're a business that wants to take things to the next level and grow. What strategies do you have for somebody who's at that position?
Okay, really good question. So, the first thing is that we want to remember we will always tire of our own message before anybody else will. So, the common logic is it takes about 7 to 11 times for any one human to really hear and recognize a message. So, when it comes to marketing and when it comes to sales in our business, it's going to take multiple times of continuing to show up with a virtually same message in order for that message to even break through the clutter. And of course, in today's day and age, because we are bombarded with a lot of notifications, especially on our phone or on our apps or on our computer, there's just a lot going on. And so it's changed the nature of that relationship with customers and clients. But the key is this: if we say we want to grow our business, there are two areas we must invest time, energy, and money. The first is sales, the second is marketing. And so by sales, I mean, do you have a real sales strategy? Do you have people that you are actively reaching out to and asking them or offering them the ability to work with your business? And on the other hand, marketing is helping build the brand. And so we want to continually show up. And here is where consistency matters greatly. So when I work with clients and they're starting to implement change in their marketing plan, I say, you need to commit to this for 90 days before you even look at it and change anything, because we need 90 days to get data. And the data will tell us what we need to do. It will tell us what people are responding to, what they're not, what tools are working, what's not. So here the key is you just have to go all in. You really have to invest in being consistent with your message, consistent with your content, and just keep doing it. And remembering you're going to get sick of it way before anybody else is, but you've got to keep doing it.
That's great advice and encouraging, because I think a lot of people, especially like you said, in this day and age, we're impatient. We want results yesterday. And so 90 days may seem like an eternity to measure whether a campaign of some kind or a venture of some kind is actually succeeding.
Absolutely. And it's just the nature of being a business owner. I mean, we're idea people, we're creatives, we want to bring new things to the world. And that is a wonderful skill set and something that's really important, but it has to be balanced with that commitment and the dedication to keep showing up. And so that window of time becomes really important in recognizing that results will come, but they come through consistently showing up, not through showing up for 2 days and then being like, where are all the people? Why aren't they buying my stuff yet? It's just going to take time.
In your experience with successful businesses, when do they begin to see success? I know that's such a general question because each is different, but I think a lot of startups quit before even their first year has ended because they can't afford to continue, or they don't have the drive to continue. What is the magic time frame in which to allow a business to work out the kinks and actually reap some benefits, some fruit?
Okay, so this is how I like to think about it. The first year of your business is learning. That's really all you're doing is you're showing up, you're testing out some things, you're seeing what people are responding to, and you are cutting your teeth every single day. It is the biggest learning curve you'll ever have. And if you never got your MBA, you are getting it in the first year of running a business. Now, year two becomes unique. In year two, what you start to see is what's repeating. And so if there's seasonality in your business, you will see it. If there are trends in your business, you will see them. If there are things that happen with customers and clients, just say kids going on a school break over summer and recognizing how that impacts your own business, you will see it, but you actually don't really notice it until the second year. So when you come through the second year, you're now, from a learning perspective, in a position to really put the pedal down and grow your business because you know a lot more at that point. But to your point, you have to be funded to get through that point. And so I think the keys are continuing to put the focus on sales, put the focus on marketing, because those two things generate interest and income in your business. And we know that we have to have money coming in if it's going to be a business and if it's going to be sustainable over the long haul.
What percentage of, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, what percentage of businesses do you see that start out as one thing but wind up as another, because it just is sort of this happy accident that, actually the revenue stream was better in this alternate format than the original idea that somebody had?
Honestly, 90%.
That high?
It's yeah, because if you're really listening to your audience, they're giving you the feedback you need to pivot your business. And I haven't seen a business yet that hasn't had to pivot in some way, shape, or form. And pivot, can sound like we've gone from left to right, but oftentimes it's just an evolution and tweaking the offering, and just we have to be present for that, and we really have to listen. And I think sometimes the tendency is to get so focused on what we want it to be to the exclusion of really hearing what our customers are saying. But if we listen, they will tell us what they need, they will tell us what they want, and we can oftentimes just tweak a little bit of what we're doing to come a little closer to them. And that puts us in a position to grow.
And so that's all if things are going well, to have that flexibility, and the dollars will tell you as well. Like, the customers will speak through the money that they're willing to spend and where the revenue is coming from. How do you know when it's time to fold and to close up shop and declare something as, not successful and move on to something else?
Yeah. So I think what's important to state up front is that about 50% of businesses will fail by year 5. It is not uncommon. But I don't want to say that to mean you shouldn't go after it and you shouldn't go after the dream of running a business, because I think it's still a worthwhile endeavor. If it's inside of you and it's something you want to see and put into the world, go after it and figure out a way to make it happen. With that said, if you reach a point in your own business where you're like, this is just not sustainable anymore, being able to exit out of that business is a win. And I really think here the key is reframing the thinking, being like, oh, it was a failure, to instead, I just chose to walk out of this or to go a different direction because it didn't prove to work the way I thought it would. And that is true success. And so I think we really have to reshape how we talk about and how we think about the choice to close a business. But to me, the key is it's financial in many cases. How long can you continue to float your business without having money coming in? For every person, that's going to look a little different, depending on how much money you put into that initial coffer, depending on how much money you have in your own personal savings, depending on how much debt you're willing to rack up on your credit cards. That's going to look different for every human being, but you will want to set a threshold for yourself that says, okay, if by blank date, I haven't reached this, it could be number of customers, amount of money in the bank, etc. I'm going to choose to make some decisions here. Now, sometimes that decision means I need to go out and get another job to keep this business afloat. And I see a lot of business owners do this. I did this in my very first business, which meant I went out and I walked dogs, I worked catering shifts, I signed up for like a flu vaccine study. I was willing to do anything because I really wanted to see my business succeed. And so to me, the key is let go of that definition of that being wrong or shameful, or that, it means something negative. It's really a sign of strength to be able to look at your life and to look at your business and say, hey, it's cool. This thing's not yet generating the income I want, but I still want to see this move forward. So I'm willing to take part of my time and go invest it in this other endeavor so I can make some money and put it back into my business. And that oftentimes is what we will choose to do as business owners. And that's a real win.
I think what I see a lot of nowadays is people who have a side hustle. So they've got the 9 to 5 primary source of income, but they have like 1 or 2 side things that they do that are hobbies that have somehow turned profitable. And I think that's fascinating, especially in a gig economy where a lot of people don't have a traditional full-time job anymore. They're contractors with different entities based on the skills they have. What advice do you have for people that are, maintaining 1 or more side hustles?
Yeah. So I think that it's fine. If you want to have a side hustle and make that money and just put a little extra cash in the bank, go for it. Now, if your goal is to transition out of side hustle into full hustle, you've got to build a business plan and you've got to figure out when you will make that transition. I do see a lot of people in this position that are very comfortable having that full-time job and having that full-time salary and having that extra income on the side, but they're not really prepared or ready to make that leap over to the other side. And this is where I would say the business plan comes into play, because you will want to know how much money you can generate if you're to contribute 100% of your time to that side hustle so that you can make it a full-time business. And you've got to have the data here to back it. So by this, I mean, there's a spreadsheet. You need to have a spreadsheet with some numbers in it that really tell you what that looks like and can help make you make an educated decision around that business.
But assuming that most people, aren't walking around with an MBA, is it relatively simple? Like, that can sound really intimidating to somebody who's never actually put a business plan down and never worked, with a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet of some kind.
Yeah, fair enough. So I would say, one, lean on free resources, and there are a lot. The SBA, Small Business Association, has a number of them on their own website, and I encourage you to familiarize yourself with them. Now, there are different forms of business plans, and some are really designed to help you go to a bank to get lending, which is hard as a new business owner, not completely unheard of, but very hard. And then there are others that are just for your purposes of helping you figure it out. Now, if a spreadsheet's not your jam, sit down with a piece of paper, get your calculator out, and figure out, what are you going to need to bring in? What do you have to sell? What's that look like? How many units are you going to need to sell in any given month, in any given year, to create that income? And on the other side, what are the expenses? Like, really think through it. What am I going to need to invest money in order to operate this business? And that's really the nuts and bolts of a business plan. We're looking at the cost associated with both sides, how we bring in money, and then what we'll need to spend to be able to make it.
And the last point I wanted to make kind of ties in with the whole reason that you founded Hatch Tribe. And admittedly, I have not done a great job so far of really networking with other people who are in my same field, who are doing this kind of show or, podcasting and whatnot. But from what I hear, like, that is really one of the key things to success, right? Is to find other people who are in your space and help build each other up. Because frankly, there's a lot of questions that come up when you're running your own thing that you might be scared to just put out into the public. You need a safe place to go to talk with like-minded people, to vent, and to get advice.
Yeah, I think this is, in my world, I say it's one of the two most important things as a business owner. We need the connection to people that are on a similar path as us so that we have the right people to turn to for the right advice. And so the tendency would be like, oh, I need an answer to this question. Let me go Google it. Now, it's not that you're not going to get some good information, but we don't always know where that information comes from. And we don't know if it's from people who have run a business, if they're in a similar position as us. So I would much rather you have a community of people you can turn to get answers about what it's like to run a business. Is this a tool that I need? Do you have a resource you can share with me? And help you get answers to your questions quicker without having to go down the rabbit hole of searching pages and pages and pages of Google. And then I think the other part is, having the right connections helps shorten the learning curve, and it helps shorten those connections. So when we need an introduction to someone, if we have that right community of people, they can make it for us. Mm-hmm. Or if we need an answer to a question, we can get it more swiftly or get a resource more swiftly instead of taking hours or days trying to find an answer. So to me, that connection part is really important. And then the number two is that it's education. As business owners, a lot is changing and it changes all the time. And so the things you need to know when you're launching your business will evolve over time. And it's making sure that you are staying on top of that and you're really investing in your own professional and personal development so that you can continue to become the best business owner and CEO that you can be.
Fascinating stuff. Any last thoughts before we go?
I'm so thankful for the opportunity to share this. And, really, if you have a dream of running a business or starting a business, I encourage you to do it. Go after it. I don't want you to ever sit and regret that you didn't. And you'll never know until you try. There's just no amount of research that will prepare you for doing it, but do the research and then go do it and then figure it out from there. You can figure it out. I promise you that. It's just a process.
Inspiring words. Hilary Johnson, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you for joining us for this episode of That Expert Show. We will be collecting all of the information that she shared and creating a tip sheet for you. We put that tip sheet out via social media. I'm on Facebook at Anna Canzano, on Twitter and Instagram at That Expert Show. We also put the tip sheet on our website, thatexpertshow.com. And if you don't happen to catch this live, because we're all busy and that happens, we always put the episode back out as a YouTube channel on That Expert Show, and we kick it out to you as a podcast as well. So whether you're on Apple iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, all those places, you can just listen to it as well. Thank you so much for joining. Make sure that you set a notification so that if you are interested in future episodes, you will get an alert that we are going live. I always post about the topic in advance because I want to know what questions you have about that topic, and for the expert that we'll be interviewing. That's the whole motto of That Expert Show, where you help run the show.